Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back for week 9 of 10 in the AVCP Tribal Court Training Series. We're very happy that you've come back to listen to all of our presentations over the last 9 weeks. For me, it's gone by surprisingly quickly. My name is Denise Nerby. I was born and raised here in Bethel, and my parents are Barbara and Carl Anvil Sr. I'm the Tribal Justice Manager at AVCP. I've been with the department since 2016 and in my current position since February of 2020. I am always happy to help anyone who might need help. Before we go ahead and get started today, I'm going to run over our housekeeping items. These trainings are being recorded and will be made available on the AVCP website at a later date. We are all placed on mute to begin with, and we ask that you remain muted unless speaking, and to unmute yourself on the phone, press *6, or on the computer, click on the little microphone button at the top right-hand area of your screen. With that being said, we definitely encourage any questions or communication dialogue. We can accept questions through the chat function if you don't feel like speaking. So we encourage everybody to ask questions or provide input where they see fit. Today, we will be hearing from Darlene Daniel, the Tribal Court Administrator for the Kong'aikanuck Tribal Court, who worked for many years as their Chief Clerk of Court. Darlene will speak toward the role of the Tribal Court Clerk, and further, we will be listening to a panel of Tribal Court Clerks from the AVCP region. The panel questions will be facilitated by the AVCP Tribal Justice Program Coordinator, Nellie Wassley. And without further hesitation, I will go ahead and share my screen and hand the time over to Darlene Daniel for her presentation. Darlene?
On.
I can hear you.
Hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm Darlene Daniel of Kong, and I'll be speaking about the role of a court clerk. And there's only a few pages that I made for this presentation, since we'll have other tribal clerks speaking later on in this calling. On the title, it says role of a court clerk, and you could switch to the next slide. The next slide is tribal court clerk duties. We have this listed when we post for a job opening on the court clerk duties, and I thought this would be a good explanation to show first. On the duties and responsibilities, performs all planning and administrative functions of the tribal court, calendars, notices, and scheduling, compiles the written work of the tribal court judges, maintain files and records of the court decision and cases, maintain a good relationship with the law enforcement and government officials. This is keeping in contact with our TPOs or our tribal governments in the main office. Held accountable and responsible for timely responses from tribal court on all issues, timely scheduling of cases, and efficient handling of all court requirements. This was, we had a slowdown of hearing cases during COVID last year, and we hardly had court when they first had COVID. And this, the timely scheduling was changed due to COVID. And after our villages went into lockdown, we couldn't have court. So once we started, there was hardly any COVID cases. We started trying to set up court a couple of times a month, trying to catch up on all of our cases and complaints. Responsible for typing and finalizing all legal documents in any proceedings. Our chief clerk of court right now, we try to send out notices like 10 days ahead. And then before the court hearing, we'll get all our judgment forms ready with the case number on there, ready to print out as soon as the judges say what the judgment or fines are. We input those on the computer and it's ready to be printed out. It's good to be prepared ahead of the hearing day and print out the necessary paperwork while they're doing the court. Responsible to achieve an efficient, friendly environment. Be respectful. I know that sometimes we get angry phone calls from people that are given notices of hearing, but we have to explain in a calm voice and explain that sometimes we have to say we are not responsible for your actions. We didn't know anything happened until the TPO gave us reports. We don't know what's going on out there until we hear these complaints coming in. So when they try to blame our court for, like, oh, you're picking on me, how come you guys are picking on me to go court? I'll just say, we did not have any knowledge of what you did. We're just responding to these complaints, and it's not our fault that these happen. So that is a good way to calm down people when they call in like with angry voices. With assistance from the tribal court administrator, maintain the budget, bookkeeping, and all tribal court financial management and record keeping. For this, we usually do a budget together with the clerk, administrator for the upcoming budget request and keeping track of all the fine payments or community service deductions from their fines. So we all work together trying to maintain that community service spreadsheet with the other workers that are there. Responsible for public information, report management, court records, confidentiality, witness management, and other duties as assigned. At our court, we usually put out a quarterly newsletter for any public announcements, and we get input from other departments if they have any announcements too for our newsletter. And for our court records and confidentiality, we keep those in a file, locked file. Responsible for phone, mail, complaints, and public relations for the court. And our on qualifications, I said, must be dedicated to work on behalf of the tribe and know the Yupik language. Because in our court, we have elders that don't know much English, so that's one of our qualifications to work at our court. have a basic knowledge of the village ordinances and the judicial code and willing to learn them. Applicant must have high moral character and ethical standards, must have excellent communication skills, basic office skills, and know how to operate copier, computer, and basic Microsoft Office products. I usually tell my coworkers that even if people are saying stuff on Facebook or out there gossiping about tribal court this and that, tribal court this and that, we don't need to answer to those complaints because we know our own jobs that we do. And I remind my coworkers, just leave them alone. They're just letting off steam, or we know what the job we do. So sometimes it's hard not to respond to people, but that's what we try to do. For our applicants' bookkeeping and accounting skills, we have our main office next door that does bookkeeping and accounting, but that was one of the qualifications listed before, so it's there. And complete other job duties as assigned. Must set an example in conduct, dress, deportment, and demeanor. Must be able to work well with the community, tribal judges, advisory board, and the traditional council. Next page. How the court is set up. First, we get complaints, a written complaint for violation of tribal ordinances is filed with the tribal court clerk. Number 2, petitions to use the tribal court. A petitioner wishing to resolve a dispute with another party, respondent may file a petition to use the tribal court with the court clerk. Usually when we get complaints over the phone, we'll ask them to write it down or come to the court and fill out a petition. And then the clerk issues a case number, like we do the month, year, and first case of the month is 01, second case is 02, and so forth, how they do the case numbers. And the court clerk sets a court date, usually a week or more. We'll set a court date. And the clerk informs parties involved, judges, affiliates, offenders, witnesses, petitioner of the impending trial or hearing 7 to 10 days prior. And I wanted to add to this that we started recording in our court docket each petition that comes to court, even if it doesn't seem to be a real case. Some are just complaints between people, or it's not like breaking a village rule when the complaint comes in, but we make sure to record it in our court docket so we'll have a record of which cases that come to court, or that way we'll have data to have for applying for funds or grants. That's a good way to know how many cases are like children's cases or intoxication cases per month, or different kinds of cases that we get. We put them all in that court docket. And what I learned at one of our training is that right now they're looking at data from all the tribal courts. They have to see what kind of cases you get and how many cases you get. They're starting to look at the data that we collect in order to get funding. So it would be good for the court clerks to start your court docket if you haven't started on that. And last page, 3 court hearing. The clerk opens a court hearing by recording the session, time and date, and stating present parties. Clerk presents the allegations or contents of hearing to the judges. If the offender denies the allegations, the judge may ask present witnesses if the allegations are true. If the offender pleads guilty, the court may either impose fine, issue judgment order, or issue a warning. The clerk issues involved parties of judgment order copies and retains originals for files. And on the bottom, there's that would be our website on the bottom if you wanted to check. Kong Tribal Court. We have a website there. And that's my presentation for our role of a court clerk.
Thank you, Darlene. That was
Yes, Laura.
Yeah, that was a very quick overview of everything that you do. I know that Kong is very active and you do a lot. So before we get into today's Clerks panel questions, I wanted to pause here to see if there were any questions from the participants for Darlene. To be able to unmute yourself, either press *6 on the phone or the microphone button at the top right-hand area of your screen. Are there any questions or anything else to add from any other presenters? So hearing none, I wanted to go ahead and hand the mic over to Ubai, who is going to facilitate today's panel. Ubai, are you on?
Yeah, am I unmuted?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Nellie Wasley. My Yupik name is Ubayunuk, but I prefer to be called Ubay. My parents are Howard and Nellie Wasley. I was born in Anchorage and grew up mostly in Bethel and Kipnuk during the summer breaks, berry camp, and some Christmas breaks. My father is a retired sergeant for YKCC for many years, and my mother wears a lot of hats. She is also retired. She has worked as a nurse at the old hospital, also a nurse at the Yellow Submarine emergency room, the Yupik teacher for many of my peers at ME school, and recently she was working as the lunch lady at the high school. I'm blessed with 3 grown sons, 2 beautiful granddaughters, and a very handsome grandson. I've been with AVCP since October 2018, starting off as the travel specialist in finance and transferring to the Tribal Justice Department on April 1st of 2020. Since then, my knowledge with tribal courts has expanded, and I've grown much respect for tribal courts, as starting a tribal court may seem super stressful, but I believe it will be much appreciated for your tribal members and your community. You have heard from Darlene Daniel already. Now I would like to ask the tribal court panelists to introduce themselves, starting with Francis. Are you on, Francis? You might have to press *6. Okay, maybe he's having trouble unmuting.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Oh, there you go. Yes. Hi, Francis.
Hello. Hello, my name is Francis Prince. I am from Court Lake, and I've been the Court Lake court clerk since October of 2020. A little introduction about myself. I have one daughter, which is 1 year old, and I was born in Bethel, Alaska, raised in Court Lake, Alaska. My parents are Francis Prince Sr., a retired construction worker. My mother is Sarah Prince. She still works at the school as a teacher aide.
Thanks, Francis. Lady, are you on the line?
Hello?
Hi, lady. I hear you.
Hi, this is Angela Fox. I'm the tribal court administrator at Kipnuk. I started out as a clerk. I've been here for about 3 years. My Yupik name is Jingakak. Okay.
Bayana. Darlene Matthew? Darlene, you probably need to press *6. Hi, Darlene. We could hear you.
Hi. Hello?
Hey, Darlene.
Hi, this is Darlene Matthew. I'm from Shapornik. I started in 2019 as a tribal court clerk.
Okay.
I don't know.
All right, Darlene. Okay, so we'll start with the clerk's panel questions. Number 1, what is your experience as a tribal court clerk? Francis, did you want to answer?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we could hear you.
Hello, my name is Francis, and my experience as a tribal court clerk, I've been a court clerk for just about a year now.
Okay. Angela, do you have anything?
My experience as a tribal court clerk is I'm learning something new every day.
All right, Darlene Matthew.
My experience as a tribal court clerk, I like it when our tribal members approach me or call me and ask me for help.
Great. Darlene
Or
Daniel. Oh, sorry. Okay, Darlene Daniel. Darlene, you may have to press *6.
I started as a tribal court clerk when our court formed, and we made templates for forms and drafted codes from AVCP Justice samples that they gave us. It was mainly a simple tribal court, and we'd have TPOs pick up our people for their hearings. And at one point, we didn't have any computer. Our computer got really old and died, but we'd write our notes on paper during emergency hearings. And for a while, we didn't have any funding, but we just kept going. And we had a tribal court assessment in 2016. After that, we started getting funding every year, and we'd make a budget for the upcoming year and submit it to BIA. And up to this day, we're still getting approved by BIA to get funding. And at first, it was only myself as an employee with our judges, and then after our assessments were done, we started getting more employees working with us, like a bailiff, translator, and sub-clerk that is learning, and we have our own male and female counselor now for our people that need counseling, elder male and female counselors. So as a clerk, you could apply for these different positions when you do your tribal court assessment and set up your budget. That way you will have more people working and helping in your tribal court. Dolly.
Okay, Bayana, Darlene. Question number 2. What motivates you in your role as the court clerk? Francis, did you want to give your answer?
What motivates me in being a court clerk is helping out my community, the people, even also outsiders that come into my community, to help them out if they need to use the court clerk, and keeping the community safe and strive for kindness.
Nice. Angela?
What motivates me is wanting to help people, and I'm always hoping the people that come in for help get what they want.
Awesome. All right, Darlene, Matthew?
For me, when I get approached at the tribal court or over the phone, what motivates me is the urgency in their voice, or how they look on the face when they ask for help.
All right. And Darlene, Daniel, did you want to add to this?
Our judges motivated me to keep going, and sometimes I feel like quitting. But our judges were always counting on me to set up the court hearings and do the paperwork. And what one of our judges, John Philp, was always telling us, we are not doing this for nothing. Daleput ang tawag is how he said it. He always reminded us that our work is not small, it's really valuable. And he continually tells the other judges and the workers at court, we are not doing this work for nothing, and that we are valuable in the work we do. And many years later, I'm finally understanding what he was saying when we started getting funding every year, that all that time we didn't have money, we just kept going. And what he was saying is, seems like it's coming true, that we're getting funding every year, and we did not suffer for nothing back then, even we had no money. So our judges are the one that motivated me.
Wow, that's good to hear. So the next question, how do you interact with members of the community when they come into or call the court? Darlene Matthew, did you want to give your answer to this?
Interact like in person.
Yeah, in person or when they call into the court.
You can tell the urgency when they call and ask questions about certain stuff, or when they ask for help in some cases where they're in domestic violence. I have to sometimes I have to tell them to come and do like a one-on-one thing, and then I involve the judge also when this happens.
All right. Francis, did you have an answer to this?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we could hear you.
I interact with my tribal members of my community with a positive greeting, and I'll ask how may I help them.
Awesome. Lady?
I could barely hear.
Is this Darlene?
I could barely hear.
I hear okay. Do you need to turn your volume?
I think my speaker was off.
Oh.
Maybe that's why I didn't hear.
Okay. All right. So Francis, you're done. Lady, are you online?
When clients come in to the court and ask questions, I answer as much as I can, or I'll tell them that I'll get back to them after I get answers.
And number 4 question, do you connect with other courts as court clerk? Darlene Matthew?
I always call Kipnik or Kong if I need help or advice.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Darlene Daniel? Darlene, Daniel?
I usually answer emails or calls if they ask for help. And if they have questions, I answer them. And if I don't have an answer, I give them a name like Alaska Native Justice Center to call Rick Garcia over there or email Kevin Ellingworth, because those are my resources too that help me when I'm stuck on something that I can't work with. So if I could help them, I'll give them help, and then if I can't, I'll point them to the right direction.
Okay, that's good. And Lady?
Connecting with other courts or court clerks. I like to ask questions because there's different ways that courts do things, and I like to ask suggestions on how they do it.
Good. So question number 5, how do you prioritize numerous tasks as clerk? Darlene, Matthew?
I prioritize by doing what is most important first, like on the date when it's going to be due, or the seriousness of what needs to be done.
All right. And Lady?
Prioritize. I try to do one thing at a time. Get the most important ones done first.
Okay. And Francis, you had an answer to this question?
How do I prioritize numerous tasks as a court clerk? I prioritize numerous tasks step by step under a tribal ordinance. If I need assistance, I ask the KITC administrator for assistance. And if it's an emergency type of case like domestic violence or child custody, we take care of it right away, get the hearing date set up, notify all parties and people involved, try to be at least one step ahead.
That's good. Question number 6. Do you assist with registering orders in state? If so, how? Darlene, Matthew?
I have to, when this happens, when somebody comes and asks for a protective order, that's the main thing that they come for helping filing for protection. Or if they wanted to file for court through the state, they come through me and asking for help.
All right. Lady, do you assist with registering in state court? If so, how?
We have registered restraining orders, protective orders, using the verification form to the state.
All right. Question number 7. Think about a challenge you faced as a court clerk. How did you overcome it? Darlene, Matthew?
One time I had a schizophrenic person come in my office and was asking all kinds of questions. I had a bat just in case if she tried to manhandle or anything, but I had to keep a close eye contact at all times, and I gradually got our TPO involved by asking if he wanted to talk to him, and that's when I, without showing fear or anything, I got the police coming. That's my most scary experience.
Imagine. Thank you. Lady?
There have been a few people that came in or even called in to the court angry, mad. I just listen to them. I don't try to show my fear or get angry while they're here or on the phone. I just listen to them.
That's good. Question number 8. How do you manage handling confidential information when you have to share it with other entities and parties to a case? Darlene, Matthew, can you give your answer?
Since we live in a very small village and everybody hears what everybody has done, but when it comes to this, I oftentimes when this happens, I don't say the names, or I just keep the problem out without naming anybody that's involved. And mainly everybody's related here. They tend to, I always tell them, like, how do I say this? Like, forget that the person that I'm talking about is a stranger and not a relative. I don't know if I'm saying it right, though.
So how do you manage handling confidential information when you have to share it with other entities and parties to a case?
Yeah, without naming them, but just saying the problems.
Okay. All right. Lady?
When parties ask about information, I'll tell them to wait for court and to ask the judges about their questions.
All right. And Francis?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
How do I handle confidentiality? Confidentiality is very important. And here in the court, we sign an oath of confidentiality with all the parties, people involved.
All right. Last question. What is your best piece of advice for new clerks or other clerks in courts just starting out? Francis, would you give your advice?
My advice for new clerks or other court clerks just starting out is, best piece of advice for the new court clerks is follow your tribal court ordinances. Take it step by step. Don't overthink. Overthinking may get you frustrated. Need assistance? Ask your court administrator, your tribal administrator, your tribal council, or the AVCP Justice Center. Don't be scared to ask questions. Kindness, respect, and honesty is a positive mindset to come to work every day. If you have to review or go over your local tribal ordinances, it is a good thing to get a refresher if you have to.
Awesome. And lady, did you have anything to add?
My advice would be, it's always good to ask questions if you don't know all the answers, and there's lots of resources out there. You can ask other courts for resources, or you can ask other courts for suggestions.
All right, Darlene Matthew.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Oh, the question is, what is your best piece of advice for new clerks and other clerks in courts just starting out?
Oh, seek for help and reach out to other clerks from the surrounding villages. I like that.
Yeah, that's good advice. Darlene Daniel. Darlene.
As for me, I tell the new clerks, not to be overwhelmed by how your court is set up, and I say it's not a state court; it's your own tribal court run by your own community, and you don't have to copy the state court how they do it, and to always use due process, like notice of hearing for all involved. Give everyone a chance to speak, and be fair and impartial at the hearing. No conflict of interest for the judges. So those would be my advice for new clerks.
Awesome. Okay, that's all the questions I have for today's panelists. I'm going to hand the mic back to Denise.
Thank you, Ubay, and thank you to all of today's panelists. This is all really good information, and fostering relationships between the tribes in our region is important, even in small ways. I always tell everybody that our biggest resources could be the tribe next door. Together, moving forward collectively and not leaving anybody behind is my motto. So you can take it and run with it if you'd like. At this time, I would like to ask if any of the participants or any of the other presenters from throughout the series have questions or comments or input for today's panelists. And also to please remember to press *6 to unmute yourself or unmute using the microphone function. I just want to add that for any of the other presenters, if you'd like to add anything for the clerks of our region. So gonna pause for a minute just to make sure that anybody can join in.
Hello?
Hi, I can hear you.
Yeah, this is Rita. I'm a tribal court administrator in Nalaknak. I wanted to ask, because any of the panel members, when you have repeated
I'll say truancy cases. Do you have one file for that individual, or do you make numerous files? Because we have a case where there's a truancy that female that has a history of this. How do you guys take care of yours?
So any of our panelists, if you could unmute yourself with either pressing *6 or the unmute function to answer Zita's question.
At our court, we usually have one file for each person. So whenever they come to court, we'll know how many times they've been in court and how many judgments they've had in the past. That way you'll see all the records of how many cases they've been through before that day.
Brianna. The other question I had was, well, I guess I'll have two other questions. The next question I have is dealing with custody cases. Have you guys ever worked with other tribal courts when you have a parent from one tribe and another parent from the other tribe? And have you guys ever meet or have court with two tribes, intertribal court, to deal with the issues of the parents, for instance, child custody case?
Am I still unmuted?
Yes, we can hear you.
We've done that before with another village before. We've had the case done at their court, but we listen in on the case with their family members that are here in our village. They gather at our court and listen in, and if they have something to say, they're able to say something, even if the court is in the other village that the judge is working on it with their side of the family too, from the other village, with like a teleconference.
Okay. When you do that, did you have to fill out a memorandum of agreement with that tribe?
We haven't done that before.
Okay.
But like they give us notice of hearing for their family members that are here ahead of time. They are notified. So at that court day, they'll come to our court and listen in on the court hearing.
Koyana, I wanted to ask these questions because we have a new court clerk, and I've been guiding her through, and I would like to get your contact phone numbers so I can ask questions. And I know Kevin Illingworth is a good resource. I have not contacted Rick Garcia, but if we can get their phone numbers, that would be great. Thank you.
I will definitely be giving, I will work with our presenters to get the contact information to you, Zita. So at this time, if there are any other questions for our panelists. I heard somebody and then it cut off. Are you able to talk still?
Hello?
Hi, I can hear you.
Okay.
first, so I'm hoping that it isn't just my connection, but I think that you cut off.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, I accidentally pressed *6 again. This is Barbara Ivan with the Napichuk Tribal Court. I want to see if I can get help with Darlene Daniel, and that lady from Alaknakaiting Zira. I have a similar case here for the custody, and the parents live separately. I want to get help on that one. Is it okay if I call you, Darlene,
Yeah.
for help?
Yes.
And I guess, can I get the phone number so I can give you a call maybe like tomorrow?
Am I on mute or not?
I can hear you, Darlene.
Oh, my cell is 557-2280.
Okay, all right. I need help on this one, and I'll try to give you a call tomorrow. And thank you.
Yes.
So I see in the chat that Vivian has her hand up. Vivian, did you want to ask your question?
Okay, now
I can hear you, but it sounds like you're cutting out a little bit.
okay. Hi, Denise, it's Vivian. I tried to call into the trainings as much as I can, and sometimes I can't stay the whole time, but I try to. I just wanted to let you know that I listened to the trainings, and today was especially important because it demonstrates why tribal courts are so important to our region. And just listening to today's questions and panel, what that does is it helps me when I go to my meetings and advocate for tribes and public safety and tribal courts at the national and state level. So I just wanted to say that I am listening, I'm learning, and the importance of AVCP's training for tribal courts is extremely valuable. So I just wanted to say that out loud, Denise, and thank you for putting this together with all the help that you get and all the participants. So, Koyana.
Thank you, Vivian. Yes, I agree that tribal courts are very, very important for our region, and I'm always advocating for networking and fostering relationships and collaboration. So thank you. So I'm doing a final call for any questions to the panelists.
I have a question. This is Zita
Yes.
again. I wanted to know if you guys ever took care of dissolution of marriage, and when excuse me, when I took a course, one of the virtual trainings with Falmouth Institute, they were saying that in order to act on situations that you had to have codes to back you up. do you guys have anything on dissolution of marriage? And if you can help me on that, because that's something new that we've encountered recently, and I need help on that. Thank you.
So I think what I'm going to ask is that, Darlene, you answer from the Kong Tribal Court, and then I'm going to ask Rick and Kevin to answer that. So Darlene, I'm going to hand it to you first.
Am
Darlene.
I not
Yep,
muted?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We haven't done any of that dissolution of marriages, and like I said before, some courts don't handle certain cases like that, and we don't do adoptions at the court level. We have our council members do the adoption on their side. So it depends on each village what your court is capable of doing. At ours, we don't do that dissolution of marriage.
Thanks, Darlene. So I'm going to hand it to Kevin. I seen your mic open first.
Yeah, I'll just go quickly. Thank you. I have been involved with a couple tribal courts that have done dissolutions or divorce. So you definitely do have the authority to do it. And with all cases, you are not required to have any written code. That being said, of course, this is an area where it would be great if you did have some written law that you had adopted. I believe that ABCP's domestic relations code might have divorce. I know TCC's sample code does. So there is some sample code out there that talks about the process for doing that. If you have more, Rick, that you wanted to add.
Oh yeah, I think you said it great, Kevin. I would just share that, again, like I'm going to echo what Kevin said, that you have the inherent sovereignty to handle dissolutions of marriage, and even if your codes aren't written codes would be best practices. And then if you do handle divorce and you need to file that with the state, there's a process for that called a comity or comity recognition that I'm sure ABCP or ANJC or Kevin can help you guys out with. And I will echo what Kevin said. If there are some tribes that are looking for some domestic relations codes that really specifically deals with divorces or dissolutions, reach out to ABCP and we can certainly share some with ABCP that we are aware of around, the state. Of course, they would want to be tailored to your tribes and your community specific needs and adopted by your tribal laws. But there are some good codes out there that address dissolutions if your tribal codes don't.
Thank you, Darlene, Kevin, and Rick. I'm sorry, Zita, I didn't mean to talk over you. I said final call last time, but now I'm asking again if there are any questions or comments for our panelists or any of our presenters. So hearing none, one final call to our presenters. Is there anything that you think that our tribal court clerks of the region should know? I think that a lot of it was pretty much covered, but just double checking.
Hey, Denise, I just want to kind of echo something that Darlene Daniel said early on, and that's really tracking your tribal court cases and getting that statistical information. Because I think that, tribal court information is very hard to track, but when we apply for grants that are outside of BIA, a lot of the grant applications rely upon tracking and being able to provide statistical information. So I think that is a huge area that, that we can start working on so that when we do apply for those grants and we are able to share those statistics, that we're making them meaningful. And it's going to make any application or any conversations that we have a little bit more meaningful when we can track that information. So Darlene, thank you for bringing that up. I think that's a great point, and I would just urge all the tribal courts and people on the phone to start thinking about what that looks like.
Thanks, Rick. Kevin, Deborah, Estelle, is there anything else to add?
Nothing.
Hi, it's Estelle. I just wanted to make sure that everybody really is encouraged to not be afraid to get right in there. You know, it's really important for our people that we start these tribal courts and have them going, because it really helps our people and our communities. But it isn't as scary as it seems like if you haven't really gone too far into it. And actually it becomes pretty routine after you get through the first few cases. So don't be afraid. And just like Denise and everybody else says, don't be afraid to reach out to people that might be a little bit further along than you are. Also, don't be afraid to ask any questions at all, because somebody else might have the same question, and no question is silly, or, you know, every question is important, because it might not have been outlined in any of the trainings, or it might be something that's specific to your community. And there's a lot of experience among all the people that are here, whether you think you have that experience or not, especially out in the villages, because life in our villages, especially if we're a more traditional community, are going to be a little bit different than if you're, say, in the city or something. So there's lots and lots of experience. Don't discount any of the teachings that our elders and our family members and folks in the community have, because remember, you know, this Western law is newer for us, only within the past couple hundred years, and we've got thousands of years of lived experience and teachings in our culture.
Thank you, Estelle. I like that you bring up our culture and that we've been doing this for thousands of years. It hasn't always been called what we call it now, but definitely we've been governing our own for a long time. So I really appreciate it anytime you bring that up. So not hearing any other questions or comments, I really would like to thank all of our presenters and all of our panelists today. I wanted to thank everybody for taking the time to join us and be on the call. We are looking forward to welcoming you back for next week's session, which is our final session, week 10. We'll be hosting a panel for tribal court judges, and we're looking forward to meeting with you next week. That is going to be on December 14 from 2 to 3:30. And we just hope that everybody stays safe and warm. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.